there's levels that we could talk about this halftime show. If you want to view this halftime show as a continuation of the middle finger of Drake, and you love nothing more than Drake receiving that middle finger, I don't know if you could have possibly asked for a better show. Like, he continued it to the point where I and you guys know how I feel about this, I am like, okay, it's got to be over now, right? Like, he did the game over thing at the end, and I'm like, okay, I've had enough. I don't think there's anything else interesting that you can do with relation to your beef with Drake. I think you did it. You played your song at the end. You had Serena Williams out there crip walking to it. You did the whole thing. You got it. You dropped the "Say Drake." You know, you talked about this cat thing about he want to sue you and everything else. You got all that. You demonstrated your defiance toward him in that moment, and you did that. Okay? But if we're going to talk about the rest of the show, guys, I think that we can all be honest about this, okay? It reminded me of another Kendrick Lamar song that was not performed. I would say that the halftime show was all right. I can't use the term that I want to use because y'all take it the wrong way, but I'm going to say it. It was mid, right? But mid in the way those of us who used to have to deal with stems and seeds say mid, okay? It was a pretty good show. This is what it felt like to me. It felt like a show maybe better suited for an arena in terms of energy, but it was a stadium show. I felt like I have seen Kendrick shows on award shows with like the Imagine Dragons behind him that I felt like had more energy than this show. I felt like the energy that he had when he did All Right during the G-Funk Super Bowl, I thought that had more energy than this. And so, yeah, we can talk about all these cultural elements. We can talk about all the Easter eggs that he had in there and all of that stuff, right? The thing about a Super Bowl halftime show for me is that it's supposed to be big. It's supposed to feel grand. And it did not feel grand. I think the Beyonce show at halftime on Christmas was more of the scale of what a Super Bowl halftime show should be than this one was, right? If you switch those shows, I think the Kendrick would have worked well for the Christmas halftime and the Beyonce would have worked better for the Super Bowl halftime because she thought in the grandiose level that you need, I think, to put on a Super Bowl show, which is grandiose by definition. This, to me, was not a grand enough show. It wasn't about the songs. And people are like, he didn't even play his hits. Yes, he did. Humble is his biggest hit. He played that. He played DNA, which is right up there. He made the decision to play the new album, which, by the way, I don't think I really blame him for doing, because I would imagine if he picked up any new fans in the course of the last 9 months, they would have been the people that was all over GNX. I don't love GNX like that, but it's not crazy the idea that he would play his most recent heat or what people think is his most recent heat. All of that made sense in the song selection and everything else. I just felt like, you ever been to a party that just didn't have enough people? Not because there weren't people, but the room was too big, and so it didn't feel like the energy was contained like that. That was what I felt like when I was watching it. So yeah, you could talk about how black it was, and you could talk about how he did it for the culture, whatever that means, right? You can get into all of that. In the end, I don't blame anybody who said that they felt bored by watching that show, because he did not carry it. Like, it was a little bit too cool. He rapped very well, right? Like, technically speaking and all of that stuff. But it was too cool. And I felt like it needed to be a bigger show. I wanted a bigger show. And quite honestly, I imagine the NFL and everybody else wanted a bigger show. That being said, he made the show he wanted to make. And as far as making the show that he wanted to make, I think he accomplished all the goals of that. And Sean, 70,000 people sang a minor.
Yeah, to your point that you've been mentioning, like it wasn't a spectacle, which I think every Super Bowl halftime performance should be. But if you've seen anything of Kendrick ever since he left TD and started his own brand in PG Lang, it's like all he really focuses on is the visuals and the art and making it truly his. Which at the end of the day, like you said, it was. But that A minor in the entire stadium probably is all you really need.
Yeah, like people are talking about, oh man, it's the sound. My issue is not with how loud it was, right? That's not what we're talking about here. The issue is truly with the energy level and like loud and When I did that show on HBO, that was one of the things I had to learn is that they'd be like, yo, we need more energy, and I would get louder. Those aren't perfect substitutes, right? Like those two things don't necessarily mean the same thing. What he did was what I always say about Ether. I thought Takeover was better than Ether for the longest, but Ether was for an audience of one, and it absolutely nailed and connected with that audience of one. And Kendrick was clearly talking to Drake. Sean, I was mistaken. I didn't realize in Australia it actually was the afternoon when that show was going on. So, so
he was very awake.
Yes. He was wide awake. So what do you think? Do you think Drake watched it with a bunch of people, or he told people they couldn't watch it and they all pretended that they had to go somewhere and then they went and watched it?
Yeah, it was probably the latter of like, no one's supposed to watch this. We're in the club, and then you see him in his little iPhone, like watching it on the side, Yeah.
Now here's the other thing that happened too. Sean, did you see the dude with the Palestinian flag, the Palestinian and Sudanese flag?
Yes, who was a dancer on staff.
Yes.
And he was released without bail recently, this morning, I believe, on no charges.
Hold on, let's talk about this, right? First of all, when did he cook up this bright idea, right? When did he come up with this idea that this was what he was going to do? Because that was a bold move to make, right?
Big move. Career-ending move, potentially.
Perhaps, right? So he did this. He held up the flag, and he's out there for the longest with the flag. And security, there's really nothing for security to do here because he's not a trespasser. Like, they detained him after he did it, and the articles in the AP said they were trying to figure out a charge. They didn't have no charge. Now, nothing like that happened to me, but after I wore that T-shirt that one time on TV, you remember that?
Yes.
The thing that was very clear to me was everybody was trying to find a charge, but they couldn't think of a charge, right? They just knew it felt like I did something wrong, right? And that dude did something wrong, but that was for the choreographer to come out there and tackle that dude. Security went out there and took him down, but they were just in the back like, what can we do? What can we do? It feels like a crime, but it's not really a crime unless freedom of speech is literally over.
Yeah, they took him back and they're like, oh, shoot, he's credentialed. We can't do anything.
Right. We can't. Like, that was the wild thing. When I watched it back, I was like, damn, he's actually part of the show, right? He was wearing the same gear as everybody else. I tell you this. I tell you who should have tackled him. I would have tackled him if that was my Grand National out there. You out here working for $15 an hour when you standing on top of my GNX. Have you lost your goddamn mind? That should have been whoever the first person was. Like, somebody was telling me the Currency got a car shop out there, and they thought that maybe they got that GNX from Currency shop. It would have not have surprised me in the least if it was Currency that went out there and took them down. They blowing Currency's high standing on top of my car. Hell yeah. Like, if that was my car, you damn right I'm sitting out there at halftime. I'm keeping my eye on that Grand National the whole way. That would have been who did that, but no, they went and took his ass out of there. And I just imagined them, like, because a buddy of mine told me, I didn't realize this, there's a jail inside the Super Bowl. Asked my friend how he found out there was a jail inside of the Super Bowl. The Superdome. In the dome. Yeah. First-hand knowledge. But anyway, I was so wild. They didn't know what to do. And the protest actually worked because it didn't make it to the broadcast, but the shots from the crowd made it. And so it got amplified. It got blown up. They threw that dude in jail, all that. He got the cause out there. But this is my last question. After you do something like that, Sean, would you have the audacity to come ask for your check?
No, that's you earned your check by doing that. You're not going to get paid, but there's going to be a nice portion of people who'll be like, I really respect what you did out there, while you have to defend yourself to everyone else.
Yeah, somebody got to give me it would take some real nerve to be like, okay, so Today is Friday, aka payday. The NFL season is officially over, but the NBA is only heating up, which means you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite teams only on Prize Picks. You could make a Prize Picks lineup with NBA or even college basketball in as little as 60 seconds. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.